Let me tell you about this girl, baby I should. I met her in Philly and her name was Brown. See, we been making love constantly. That's why my eyes are a shade blood burgundy.
Your name, please?
Mike.
Are you educated with the discussion regarding the legalization of marijuana in Harrisburg?
Yes.
Could you give me some details of what you know?
Sure. As far as legalization in Pennsylvania, there was a bill introduced by State Senator Dalen Leach, and he introduced this bill last year. It's SB 1003. It's the medical marijuana angle. He introduced it last year. I mean, as of today, it's dead. The bill's dead. There was only 3 other co-sponsors out of 49 state senators in Pennsylvania. Because it didn't get signed into law, the bill itself is dead. However, I called their office, and they said they're going to be introducing it again next year. So,
do you know that Philadelphia allows their citizens to carry up to 30 milligrams of marijuana?
That's actually not true. Well, first of all, it's grams, so it's a little bit over an ounce. But they don't allow people to carry it. What they've done is they won't prosecute you as a criminal if you're caught with up to 30 grams. What happens, it's a new thing that the DA, Seth Williams, introduced, and it's called SAM, small amounts of marijuana. And what happens with this is, if you're caught with under 30 grams, then it's essentially like treated as a traffic ticket. Okay, there's no criminal record, and then they make you take a 3-hour drug education course that costs $200. So, on the surface, it sounds awesome. It sounds like it's a decriminalization angle, but the problem with it is it doesn't help anyone that's a user. What it does is it helps the city, because now the city isn't paying money for courts. They're not paying money for a DA. You know, they're not paying money for the prosecutor. They're not putting the drug through. They don't even test it. So this is another problem too, because up in Canada just last month, they found 1,500 plants. The police seized 1,500 plants of what they thought was like a huge drug bust. They were daisies.
Oh.
So the challenge with that is so if somebody in Philadelphia gets caught, they're not even going to put it through the lab or anything like that. So essentially what this does is it saves the city a whole lot of money, and then it makes the city a whole lot of money, because the first year that it was introduced, over 4,100 people were put through this program.
Okay.
Do the math, that means the city made over $800,000 from this, and they didn't spend extra money. So it sounds fantastic on the surface, but it's really not.
What's your outlook on medical marijuana if it's legalized in Pennsylvania?
The medical marijuana angle is that conversation. It's a good first step, because it has ridiculous amounts of health benefits. And during the Nixon administration, there was something that was introduced called the Schaefer Report, and it basically debunked all the nonsensical propaganda that came out in the 20s and the 30s and why marijuana ended up becoming illegal. Harvard University did a study that showed in like the mid-70s that showed that cannabis not only slows down but almost like stops the growth of cancer cells. And there's been tons of people that have been treating themselves with cannabis oil, and it's been slowing down tumor growth, and it's been helping a lot. So it's a great angle. But the other part of it is, do you need to legalize nature? It's a plant. You know, they don't have to put apples through the legalization process. They're just legal.
Are you pro or against the legalization of medical marijuana?
It's more an issue of, sure, do I want to see it legalized? Absolutely. But when you really look at, you know, lawful definitions and legalities and all that sort of thing, it's a plant. They didn't have to pass a law to legalize oranges or anything like that. So I'm more, rather than saying that I'm pro-legalization, I'm more pro, let's not make it illegal. I'm not anti-legalizing, you know, for sure. I mean, look, whatever it takes to have people not get arrested for doing what they want to do, I'm all for it. I'm a little cautious with the strings that get attached to it. Like, there's 17 states plus D.C. that allow medical marijuana use. The challenge with that is the federal government has the authority to step in and override those state laws. The DEA can still come in and raid, and they still are to this day. They're still raiding these places. I think it really needs to be thought through with a fine comb.
Exactly. What part of Pennsylvania are you from?
Philly.
Have you ever been affected by marijuana?
Yes, a few times. Yeah, I have, absolutely. From personal use, there's been a lot of positive effects. Presidential candidate for the Green Party, Jill Stein, the other night in a third-party debate, said something that should go down in history, and it's that marijuana is not illegal because it's dangerous. Marijuana is dangerous because it's illegal. Meaning, most of the problems come because of the laws that are on the books.
Right.
Prohibition are more prohibition related than anything else. I dare anyone to find me a story where some guy came home, smoked a joint, and beat his family, or went out and robbed a bank, or anything like that. It's just, you know. And even if somebody has, it's not because they smoked.
Right. It's usually other factors that they.
It's because they're idiots.
Yeah. If marijuana became legal, how do you think it would affect your community?
It would affect the community in a very positive way because, for one, well, look, people use marijuana already, even if it's illegal.
Right.
They go to their front porch rather than their back porch at night. As far as the police are concerned, they wouldn't have to waste their time with nonviolent drug offenders. The court system would be would be less clogged up. Jails would be less crowded, and you know, people wouldn't have, like, the stigma that comes along, like when there's a marijuana charge on somebody's record. Forget trying to get a student loan. Forget trying to, you know, depending on the charge, you know, forget voting. You know, there's a lot of things that can that get affected just because of a nonviolent drug offense. Let's say it is legal, that would mean hemp would be legal too. States can grow hemp. States can do a whole lot with hemp. I mean, hemp doesn't even get you high. Like, you have to roll a telephone pole-sized joint just to get somewhat of a buzz, and the most you'll probably get is a headache. It has no psychoactive properties whatsoever. So with hemp, you can get textiles. I mean, they were making cars. Henry Ford's first car was made out of hemp. So there's a lot of things that it can benefit. You know, on the books, people used to be able to pay their taxes with hemp.
Do you think the community as a whole would stand for legalizing marijuana, or not restricting it as much, or criminalizing it as much? Do you think
so. There was a poll that was taken in Pennsylvania, and you know, it's hard to judge polls because, one, how many people did they interview, who conducted the poll,
right,
and all that stuff, and it's pretty tough. But I think a little over 2/3 of the people that were surveyed were in favor of legalization in Pennsylvania alone. There was a debate a couple years ago that you know, Barack Obama allowed an online question, the number one question, above the economy, above foreign policy, above all these other things. The number one question submitted from the online audience was regarding, you know, legalization of marijuana. I think we're at a point where people are just ready.
Do you know Obama's stance on the medical marijuana and what he said to the feds recently, or in California at least?
Yeah, he campaigned on that he wouldn't use federal funds. I'm going to cheat because I actually I jotted this down. That he would not use Justice Department resources to try and circumvent state laws about medical marijuana. That's how he campaigned. And essentially what people, you know, gathered from that was, okay, good, the DEA raids that started under Bush that overrode the state laws are going to stop. And the raids continued. They're still, to this day, even 4 years later, they're still getting raided. And actually, he was interviewed by Jan Wenner in Rolling Stone, who actually called him out on it and said, there's actually been more raids under your administration than under the Bush administration. And basically said, what's up with that? And his response was, what I specifically said is that we're not going to prioritize prosecutions of persons who are using medical marijuana. Huh? That's not really what he said. So essentially it was a flip-flop. He wants to uphold the federal law. He says, look, it's a law, then it's a law. It's
right.
Like, well, it's an unjust law.
And also,
to the president.
I don't think he wants to be the first president to legalize marijuana.
It would be awesome.
Right.
I would want to be the first president to legalize marijuana.
I mean, I guess because it comes from... He already has a tough issue now with coming into office and dealing with what he had to deal with Bush's reign, and then now it's like he's the first, and we're going to put it out there, he's the first black president that we had. So I guess from his standpoint, I would think that he might not want to legalize it because he is the first black president, and he's already...
How much worse can it get for him, though?
I
mean,
I agree.
Like, the guy sneezes wrong, and people freak out. So,
right.
But it would be the right thing to do. And it'd be very simple. I mean, with an executive order, the guy signs executive orders. He signed more executive orders than any other president combined in history. So it'd be nothing for him to sign an executive order to overturn the Controlled Substances Act. And just reschedule it.
Yeah.
And if it was rescheduled, things would change. Let me say this, too. He smoked it. A lot. And, you know, his very funny, famous quote was, of course I inhaled a lot. I inhaled frequently. That was the point. Well, let me tell you, if he would have gotten caught, he wouldn't be president right now.
Right.
So just because he, quote unquote, got away with it, and now can kind of joke about it, but still puts people in jail for it, is sad.
Right. How do you think individuals would be affected by if marijuana became legal? Medical use or for fun? Like, well, if you think about it,
It's a lot of fun.
For fun, how do you think individuals would be affected by it?
They would have a blast. They would have a lot of fun. All seriousness, there's tons of benefits from it. Okay, right. And listen, let's not rule out fun. I mean, why do people drink?
Exactly.
Is there a medical reason why people drink? You drink to what? Have fun. Challenges is you wake up the next morning. You might wake up 3 states away and not know how you got there and where did I put my car. How would individuals get affected? I guess in ways that we can't even imagine yet. Because look at how many people in the state of California and all the others and the other 16 states have been affected, because now they don't have to worry about prosecution. And for people that have MS, I mean, Montel Williams, he has MS. He's very outspoken about medical marijuana and how it alleviates his symptoms of MS. I mean, I could go through the list of tons of people that have been affected by it. So what I think will happen is if it does go, full-fledged legalization across the world, you'll see tons of people be affected. Businesses will start to boom. I mean, the local economy will go through the roof.
It would boost the economy. Do you think it would benefit creating jobs for the people?
Of course, absolutely, because somebody's got to tend to the fields, the hemp fields, and the cannabis fields. Somebody's got to cut it down. There's somebody that's got to process it.
Before our conversation, were you aware that this was an issue?
No, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Because most people, if you ask them, they would look at you like, oh, criminals do that or something. They have a very negative stigma to it. So
yeah, but actually, I mean, I've been looking at this issue for a very long time. I mean, I have no problem saying that. I'm 34 years old. I've been using cannabis off and on for the past 20 years. I have zero problem talking about it publicly. And I can tell you that there's been times where I've not smoked, and there's been times where I haven't used it, and I'm glad. I mean, there's been like 5 or 6 year spurts where I didn't. There's really like no difference between the me that uses and the me that doesn't. My fridge is always full. My bills are always paid. The sheriff doesn't come knock at my door looking for my mortgage payment, because I didn't pay my mortgage. All my, I'm very responsible. I work out constantly. I'm a very responsible person. Put it like that.
Do you ever think that it will become legal in all 50 states?
Sure. I'm going to be the optimist. I'm going to say yes. Look, people use, and they have been using for a very long time. Here's the difference. Now that it's 2012, and now that these conversations are happening, people are coming out of the closet about it, and they're not closet case stoners anymore. And I hate to even use that word stoner, because it's really not what it is at all. The next generation after us is going to learn from us, and even our generation right now. Those people are going to get into positions of power, where they're going to be able to get it. They'll get elected. The other night, the third-party debate, 3 out of the 4 candidates that were up on stage debating all agreed that, sure, yeah, absolutely, medical marijuana is, it should be fine. Gary Johnson is all for it. Jill Stein is all for it. Rocky Anderson, who's with the Justice Party, he said he'd at least entertain the idea. Ron Paul was all for it. So the fact that these respectable people in positions of power are willing to do that, absolutely, that means a whole bunch of other people are going to follow suit. So when they get a chance to sign the pen of authority, maybe, I think so. I would like to see it in our lifetime. I never would have thought that, we're a third of the way there. 17 out of 50 states.
Right.
So it's only a matter of time.
Well, then I guess it's on the defensive on the federal government, I guess, because the reason why they haven't legalized it is because the DEA, ATF, FBI, who's coming in and raiding or whatever, they would lose a lot of jobs.
Yes, the DEA, a good amount of people would lose jobs in the DEA. And you know what else, too? They'd get a job doing something else, whether it's private security, whether it's another government institution. But think about the jobs that we're trying to save here. We're saving jobs of people who are given orders, and they follow these orders to kick people's doors in, shoot dogs. This is all on record. This is things that people do. Sometimes they break into the wrong house and kill the wrong person. That happens constantly. Yeah, I'm totally okay with those jobs going away.
Mm.
What about their families? Well, then they can, unemployment's through the roof. They can hit the streets just like the rest of us that have lost jobs.
Are you okay with your elected official voting for the case, or would you like to have a say in the legalization of marijuana if you had the ability to vote? Meaning, like, if you were able to vote on this, instead of having, like, going through the House or whatever, and it was a topic to vote on, would you want to be able to have that?
This is always that's a good question. It hits things on a really deep philosophical level, because an elected official, do they really represent you? No, they just represent the the viewpoints of the amount of people that they got them into office. Okay, and the challenge with that is, 51% of the people can't take away 49% of the rights of the other 49% who maybe didn't agree or who weren't convinced to vote for that person. So to give someone the authority, to delegate the authority of what I can and can't put into my body, is just ridiculous, because they may vote another way and then try to have to come back and explain to me and quote unquote apologize as to why. No, I would much rather have a say. But I think my say should just be really what's dictated in the Constitution. The first three words of the Constitution are "we the people." It's not "I the king." It's not "I the government." It's not we the rulers. It's "we the people." And we have we as sovereign individuals have the ability to make a decision on what we're going to do with ourselves.
Okay, so if this ever became a law, would you be willing to write to your representative?
After that answer,
Probably not.
Listen. Line it all up. Let's try it all. Let's try to write the legislators, which I've done on a lot of different things over the past few years. But I'm all for writing your legislator, protesting in the street, committing acts of civil disobedience, all these things. Let's line it all up and let's push it all through and hope it all works at the same time. Educational outreach, positive educational outreach. I'm not saying torches and pitchforks in the streets, but
right.
Education is going to be huge. So, yeah, would I? Absolutely. Would it go anywhere? I don't know. But don't expect that to be it. Like liking something on Facebook or retweeting something on Twitter doesn't save kids in Africa. And you know what I'm saying? It's not going to change the world. Like, you actually have to get up and do something and put yourself on the line.
Do you think the media has a lot to do with or effect on the outlook on marijuana?
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, William Randolph Hearst back in the 30s, who bought all the newspapers, owned all the newspapers, wrote all these articles about about marijuana, and actually people didn't even make the distinction between hemp and marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
When they outlawed marijuana, hemp went along with it, and the underlying thing is hemp is a major competitor when it comes to trees and stuff like that for printed paper and all these things and textiles. Well, that was essentially William Randolph Hearst's way of locking down his investments, because he bought all kinds of acreage and yeah, my dog's going a little crazy. He bought all kinds of acreage and he owned the logging industry and the newspapers. Well, since he owned the newspapers, he printed all these ridiculous stories. And you can look this up. You can go back and look at some of these articles. They were saying that people were smoking marijuana, and Mexicans were smoking marijuana and raping white women. Like, that was in the papers. That was propaganda.
Yeah.
So, look, if anybody thinks that the mainstream media isn't still using propaganda, wake up.
Right.
Just look at it. Does it affect me? No, because I get it. I see right through it. If you really want to know what the media is up to, just look at who's paying their bills and watch the commercials and look at all these companies that are on these commercials, and you'll understand. You'll start to kind of piece together who's really pulling the strings here. It doesn't affect me because I really don't watch TV. I watch a few shows maybe here and there, but I just don't watch it. However, a lot of other people are, and it affects them. So people just think, oh, well, marijuana makes you, They used to say that marijuana would make people crazy and jump out windows, and, after that got debunked, they turned it into... I've done it. No. After that got debunked, they tried to say that, well, pot makes you, lazy and whatever. And if that's true, no, it's not. I'm not lazy. I know a whole lot of other people that's Michael Phelps. Is he lazy? 8 gold medals. That guy's. There's all kinds. I could point to tons of examples of people that use it.
That are normal functioning people.
Normal functioning, responsible people, and you know it's funny because
the NFL.
Yeah, the NFL, the NBA. You know, if they drug tested, you know why they don't drug test in the NBA? Because there would be no more basketball.
If you think about it, yeah.
Yeah, there would be nobody would be able to show up to work. It's unfortunate that it's in this. It blows my mind that this is even still a conversation. It's 2012 and it's still illegal. Are they like? What are they waiting for?
I honestly believe it's because no one wants to be the first person to say, "All right, let's legalize."
Nobody's going to be the first person because there's already been a first person. We're on the 100 millionth person now.
Right.
So who's going to be the first person? Everybody stood up to not everybody, but a great amount of people have stood up for it.
Yeah.
17 states. 17 governors have passed it. So what does that tell you?
And do you think since no one wants to be like the first president to sign it into office to make it legalized, do you think if we get enough voices or enough states to turn over and legalize it in the state with the state laws, do you think eventually the president or the future president will be like, all right, we really need to look at this topic and just legalize it?
I'd like to say yes. Hopefully. That is where the power... No, you know what? I'm going to say yes, because that really... that should show where the power comes from. You know, I got to correct you to saying that, that you can't say that nobody wants to be the first president, because I watched the debate last night with Gary Johnson, who said, I will certainly legalize marijuana. You know, does he have a chance? Not really. He's running for the Libertarian Party. Honestly, unless you run as a Democrat or Republican, nobody's going to hear you.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
But you know, Ron Paul did a fantastic job, and he said from the beginning, he's been saying the same thing for 30 years. Absolutely, it should be legal. You know, you want to end the drug war, you know, legalize drugs. And then this way, all the drug dealers go away overnight. Will there still be a black market? Maybe, because people still make moonshine, don't they?
Right.
So, but for the most part, I mean, you know, there's not like a big moonshine problem in the country right now.
It's the truth, though.
It is. So, no, there's a lot of people that want to be the first president to do it.
All right, the way our government is set up, yes, we have these different parties, like the Green Party and the other parties that can run for president. But realistically, it's either Republican or Democrat.
It's the way the machine's set up.
Right. So if we were able to have more parties realistically running for president, do you think that they should be in office a lot longer than 4 years?
That term limits conversation it goes a couple different ways. I mean, I certainly don't want a dictator. I don't want somebody that's going to be in office for 50 years. But I'll tell you what, if I like them,
they should be able to.
They should at least be able to have it, like, maybe put a check on it, like every 4 years. Keep running an election, and as long as they don't get in a position where they can buy off the election machine, electronic voting machines and all that stuff, and if they don't pay off the right people to make sure that they're that they stay in office and that they control manufactured consent, then that's my personal opinion. I really don't have... I have issues with term limits because at that point, that person's only accountable for a short period of time.
Right.
And they can just go and do the thing. But the challenge, even still, like, even if there is a big, Democrat and Republican, machine, and you have to play one side or the other, at least open the debates up. Like, Jesse Ventura ran he won governor of Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And all his opponents had like millions of dollars, and he only raised about $300,000. And I'm not saying whether you like the guy or not. The reason he won is because he was able to debate. Open the debates up at least. There's more than 2 people running for president.
Right.
I think that the American people, people in the world, doesn't just have to be America. I think everybody deserves to know who's serious about running. Not just some guy off the street who says, I want to be president. Yeah. Because then we'd be up there forever. But I think there should be, if we are going to, entertain this idea of a party system, there is a Green Party, there's independents, let them run, let them debate. Give them 5 minutes.
And see what they have.
And if the public doesn't like them, they go away.
Right.
So, yeah, you would see major differences in this country if that little thing alone changed, if they opened the debates up. Because now you're getting other opinions up there.
Right.
Brown sugar, babe. I guess high up your love, I don't know how to behave.